We are Paul and Rachel Weber, and we are missionaries to Australia. Now, your church has supported us. I think we've been in Australia for almost 20 years now, and I'm sure your church has been supporting us for more than 20 years. We have 5 children. First we had a boy, Andrew. Then we said, okay, let's have a girl. Nope, we had a second boy. That was Jonathan. Andrew is what? Andrew's 27 now. Jonathan is 25. He'll be 25 this year. Then we said, okay, now let's have a girl. No, the Lord gave us a third boy. I'm one of 5 boys, no sisters. So I figure, well, maybe I'm cursed somehow. But by that time, we were saying, okay, let's keep trying till we have a girl. Benjamin is 21, 22 now. He turned 22 this year. Andrew is an electrician in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, so he's doing well for himself. Bought a home, and now is looking for a wife. Jonathan is now in the U.S. Air Force. He's actually working on the stealth bomber. He's a mechanic, the B-2 bomber. And then Benjamin is now in seminary. He graduated from Bob Jones with a BA in Bible, and now he's going to seminary there, and he wants to graduate and become a missionary to Russia. How he's going to get to Russia, how Russia's going to open up, well, that's the Lord's business. If the Lord calls him, the Lord will open those doors. So, and then there's Anna. Anna came along finally after we said, you know what, we're going to keep trying until we have a girl. Anna came. She was born actually 1 month after we arrived in Australia. And then Sarah came along 3 years later, almost 4 years later, 3.5 years later, in 2007. So that's Sarah. Sarah's 15. Anna's 19. The Lord, when the Lord closes some doors, He opens others. He opened those doors to Australia. I think if I could do this really quick, there are several things involved in a calling. Of course, first is Scripture. Of course, there are plenty of Scripture verses that tell us to go into all the world and preach the gospel. And that means wherever we're at, we're to be sharing, making disciples of all peoples. Prayer certainly is one, and we certainly put a lot of prayer into it. We prayed about going to Japan. We prayed about going to France. We prayed about going to Germany. We're both of German background. Lord just kind of closed the doors there. Godly advice, seeking the advice of pastors, of parents, of people who know us well, people who know where our talents lie and what we may fit in well with. That's one. Never underestimate circumstances. Now, and I talked about those closed doors. The Lord opens some doors, He closes others. He closed doors to those countries. He opened doors to Australia. What did I miss? Feelings. You know what? There is something to be said about feelings. You know, I'm talking about the peace that the Lord gives you when you're heading in the direction He wants you to go. When you're going somewhere else, you really don't have that peace. But the Lord gave us peace about Australia. And we met the field team there, knew we fit in well with them, became good friends with them. And all those things together kind of lined up to kind of guide us toward Australia. But thank you for all your prayers and your support that you've given us for over 20 years now. And to let you know a little bit of what the ministry has been like, what God has been doing over there in the country of Australia, specifically tiny little out-of-the-way place called Sydney. You ever heard of it? Okay. Sydney's actually a city of about 5 million people. So we've got our hands full there. We're all the way out into the western suburbs of Sydney. That's all we could afford, really. You move into the city and you're multi-million dollar homes. But we're out in the western suburbs of Sydney, and we've been involved in the 20 years that we've been in Australia, we've been involved in 5 different church plants. This last term of service in Australia was kind of a funny one because the world kind of fell apart, didn't it? The world went crazy, and we were dealing with someone, having conversations with someone about planting a church in the city of Dubbo, which is about 5 hours west of Sydney, and then the pandemic hit. and Sydney got locked down for about a year and a half. We weren't going anywhere. And by the time the lockdown was over, the guy who was in Dubbo decided Dubbo wasn't for him and moved on. So it was a bit of a disappointment as far as church planting, but we feel like this is one of our most rewarding terms of all. We joined the pastoral staff of Fellowship Baptist Church in Blacktown. And
Good name, right?
we're going to show you some of the things that have been happening at Fellowship in the past 4 years. Some of the things we're excited about, I do, aside from our church ministries, which you'll see in the slides, I do preach at a Bible college called the Sydney Institute for Biblical Studies. Now that's SIBS for short. We have taught English classes, free English classes to incoming migrants into Sydney. You know, Sydney is one of the most multicultural cities in all the world. Immigrants are just flowing into Sydney until the pandemic hit. But immigrants have been flowing into Sydney, and many of them come into the city, lonely, longing for some kind of friendship, and longing to learn English. And little do they know, longing for the gospel too. So we use these English classes to present the gospel to them. We tell them Bible stories, and we share Christ with them, besides teaching English. But one of the things that really excites us, probably the most of anything, is that we have the chance to go into the public school system and teach scripture classes. Fellowship Baptist Church, which we were associated with for the past 4 years, is a church of about 150 people. Our goal was to join with the church with the intent on planting a daughter church of Fellowship Baptist Church. And they would loan us, they would probably provide some finances, some people to start a church plant with. And of course, like we said, the world kind of fell apart as soon as we got all that together. So we were stuck there at Fellowship Baptist Church. Not really stuck, you might say. Through the Lord's providence, we went on the staff there as a pastor at Fellowship Baptist Church, and we had our hand in just about every aspect of the ministry. Men's ministry, young adult ministry, Sunday school teaching, music ministry, the vast variety of cultures in the churches. Sydney churches tend to be that way, very multicultural. It's like the world is coming to your door. I think the first church plants we had was Lebanese. The second church plant we had was Italian, Peruvian. The third church plant we had was more Filipino. The fourth was actually our only totally Aussie church. Yep.
And but mostly Aussie.
And then Fellowship Baptist Church. Logos Baptist Church was Lebanese. Yeah. And then this church was predominantly Filipino, but lots of other cultures too. Lots of Indian families moving into the Blacktown area where Fellowship is. And so our Indian population in our church began expanding. And so lots of different cultures, and it's very much a learning experience. Australia is a very prosperous country. They're well paid. They live in one of the best climates in the world. If they're poor, the government takes care of them. There's socialized medicine, there's welfare, there's all kinds of things. So your typical Aussie feels like they have no need. No, life is good. Why complicate it with religion, with philosophy, things like that? So it's not the fact that they fight the gospel. They're not hostile towards you sharing the gospel with them. They'll always give you here. They're very relational, like I said. They'll talk to you on the street about just about everything. Now, be prepared. They're gonna challenge you. They're gonna shoot back at you. But in the end, it's life is good. Why complicate it? So it's not that they fight the gospel. It's that they just don't see the need. They just don't see the need for Christ, for the gospel, or anything like that. And actually, that makes it harder. Makes it harder to reach a people like that who don't even see they have a need, rather than someone who actually fights the gospel. So our challenge in evangelizing in Australia is getting them to see that they have a need. That's the number one priority. Atheism is growing by leaps and bounds in Australia. I think maybe, 30, 40% of the population claims no religion. They don't particularly claim atheism, but they claim no religion. Almost half the population. It's not, again, it's not that they would proclaim there's no God. Actually, they're very spiritual people. They're just into all kinds of different spiritism and occultism and New Age things, and so they're not atheistic, so to speak, but they just don't care. They're might you call them agnostic? Probably every missionary that comes says, "I need a little more support. I need a little more support." We do too. It always happens when you're on the field for 4 years. It kind of dwindles a little. We have 50, count them, 50 supporting churches, along with 30 individuals. So we have 80 supporters that we've got to go around and visit in the process of a year. That means we can't spend a whole Sunday, morning and evening with a particular church. We try to have one in the morning, one in the evening. So it's visiting 2 or 3 churches a week for a whole year. They say furlough is furlough implies a rest. Furlough's really not a rest, but furlough is certainly necessary. If we didn't have you guys on our sides praying for us, keeping informed of the ministry, being challenged for the ministry there in Australia, then we wouldn't be on there. We wouldn't be there without your support. I could tell you that there have been times that we've been over there in Australia and things have happened, and the way the Lord has worked them out, we've just turned to each other and we've said, "Wonder who's been praying for us today." So it's important. It's important to build up that prayer support. It's important for us to challenge you, not just particularly for missions in Australia, but for missions in general, that you get involved, that you do the things that you can do. Maybe you can't go overseas yourselves and be a missionary, but you can send those overseas that can go for you, and you can support them financially, and you can pray for them. And can I say the most important thing you could ever do for a missionary is to pray for them? And you know what? That's interesting, because it's the most important thing is God's given us to do is the thing everybody can do. All of us can pray.